the interpersonal unit essay, I chose a conversation that I had with one of my mom's best friends who lives here, and who's like one of my aunts because she's very easygoing and an easy person to talk to, and I knew she would be okay with me recording our conversation. And some of the conversation wasn't recorded, but it was easy for me to remember because it was pretty funny, the incident that did happen. And so there was some miscommunication that happened between us with text message, and when we ended up figuring everything out, it was all laughs and now it's just a funny story. But at the time, there was some defensive listening and there was some multitasking coming on, and that made me frustrated. And then there was a little bit of just confusion, and with text message, anything can get miscommunicated. And so I'll explain that a little bit throughout the video. And so at first, when we were texting, I thought I was supposed to pick up Chase, her youngest son, at school. And so I went to go pick him up at school, and then her oldest daughter, Carmen, was there, and she's like, "What are you doing here?" And I was like, "I'm here to pick up Chase." She's like, "No, you're supposed to be meeting us at the house." And I was like, "No." And so we just kind of laughed, and I just went to the house. And so when Carmen got there and Jessica got there, I was like, "So I went to get Chase, and I guess I wasn't supposed to." She's like, "No, you were supposed to come here." I was like, "Okay, well, your text didn't say that." And so when I showed Carmen the text messages, she's like, "Mom, yeah, you completely were confusing, and you told her to go get Chase." And she's like, "What are you talking about? No." And she got really defensive, like really quickly, like we were attacking her. And we weren't at all, and that's not what we intended to do. We were just trying to figure out what happened, and so we could avoid it. And so when we were talking with her, she had gotten defensive really quickly, and me and Carmen noticed that as soon as it happened. And we were like, we're not trying to be rude. We were just saying what happened. And so when that happened, we had talked to her, and we had to apologize because we weren't being rude. And so when she was being a defensive listener, taking our comments to a different level, we apologized and moved on. And so she was multitasking and making food for us because she was making us dinner, and she brought it back up even though we had thought we had moved on in the conversation. And so we started talking about it again, and she was still being kind of defensive, but we had realized what she had meant in her messages had made sense to her but not us, and that she had realized she had miscommunicated some because she was typing so fast with her, and she's like, "Oh, I have fat thumbs. I mistyped some." And so I understand that, but then she said that the content was misinterpreted on both of our parts, and that she wasn't blaming herself or me, and that it wasn't either of our fault, and that neither of us were to blame. And so she was kind of just like brushing it off, and then she went back to multitasking. And then I was fine with her multitasking, but like at the same time, it is frustrating when someone multitasks if they're not like fully engaging and like don't understand like how to multitask in conversation, like if they're going back and forth. Because when someone's multitasking and trying to talk with you, it does get confusing because they can like mix things up, and like it gets hard to have a conversation with someone because it gets to a point where you're like, I just don't want to talk anymore because you're doing one thing and you need to stick to doing that one thing, because it gets way too hard to do two things at once. But she was able to have our conversation while cooking us dinner. And when she was done doing dinner and she ended up having to actually do what she was supposed to do, and I was supposed to take Chase to Boy Scouts then after dinner, she ended up doing, and so we ended up doing what we were originally supposed to do, what she meant to tell us in the text message. And our miscommunication was officially solved. All came together and our miscommunication was solved, and life went on. because just some small miscommunication doesn't end the world. And that conversation was one that I thought was a good one to do my paper on, and I'm glad I got to share it with you. So thank you.